Today on Locked On Rockies, a simple question. Are we not talking about Brenton Doyle enough?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the second day of July in the year 2024. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day is talk Rockies baseball, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies there on the Locked On Rockies YouTube comments section. Folks, we are going to talk about the Rockies opening game against the Milwaukee Brewers. A couple of storylines and a couple of things to focus on there. The offense comes alive, hitting more home runs of late. I know that's really the only way they were scoring against the White Sox, but the long ball continues to be a factor in the game against Milwaukee, and the Rockies pitching staff, again, not stellar, but good enough from some. And we'll also talk about, again, I think we got to talk a little bit more about Brenton Doyle. And I want to mention a little thing that you can probably notice, or at least I think picked up a little bit on this game against Milwaukee from the defense in Michael Toglia as well. We'll do that and more, all coming up on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we dive into everything today, want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right, there's something new for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, so the Rockies, good win. I mean, that's a good team. It's a good team that comes in Milwaukee, and the Rockies also respond. Unfortunately, the Rockies also blew multiple leads in this game. That's kind of the most infuriating part about this. But good teams, especially at Coors Field with solid offenses, are going to be able to get themselves back into it. The main takeaway, I guess, when I think about pitching in this game isn't Austin Gomber, because, Austin Gomber here again, 6 innings, 9 hits, 4 earned, 3 strikeouts. That's, again, it's the 4 earned runs that's the problem. The 9 hits and everything, you're kind of accustomed to these moments where Gomber got himself in some jams, he got himself out, but again, pays the price when he's not as sharp as he needs to be. There's just too many opportunities with Gomber, in the fact that a good team can really exploit Gomber. But he gets out of the first. The main problem he has is later there he gets tagged in the fourth, but does settle down there. He does give up another one in the fifth. But runs in back-to-back inning, 3 in the fifth, or 3 in the fourth, 1 in the fifth. But it is able to get out of the sixth and keep the Rockies close. And then, unfortunately, as we all know too well here, the bullpen's gonna bullpen, and the Rockies give up a 3 spot in the 8th. It's tough. The why I wanted to bring this up is my main takeaway again is the lack of a true closer is such a problem for the Rockies, and really the lack of a consistent setup man is a huge problem for the Rockies. It's something where I liked I liked putting Molina in with Molina's recent success, and in a situation where it is high leverage but not enough. But it's still, the bullpen can't be 3 runs is just unacceptable. And in situations, Justin Lawrence comes in and does the job, but gives up a couple of hits. And I know that the runs get associated there. Justin Lawrence also a little unlucky. Had a strikeout pitch that or another strike that should have been called. Weird things happen in this game. But again, it's a matter of not having that and not having confidence really in any option the Rockies are sending out of the pen right now. You can sit there and say Victor Vodnik, another good job. And the props are there. Absolutely. But the use of Victor Vodnik and the continued use of Victor Vodnik is got to be something that's going to be a problem. This bullpen continues to be the biggest glaring red flag, especially even in a game where Gomber wasn't his best, and in a situation where the game wasn't out of hand. Gomber kept you in it. He didn't suffer too much, and the Rockies offense was backing him up. But it's in that moment where it's just a big bummer to not believe in this Rockies bullpen. It's a big bummer to not have any confidence in the Rockies' ability to hold on to leads. And we saw that in this game where the Rockies blew multiple not double digit, but 2+ run leads in this game. On the flip side here, though, this what was nice to see about tonight was when the Rockies offense is able to get the job done, and not even everyone contributed here, but it's when a player like Brenton Doyle steps up and has a big night like this, it puts the Rockies in positions to win. You're not going to get these types of nights from Brenton Doyle all the time, but to even just have this as an option, to even have Brenton Doyle to be hitting at the rate and the at the clip that he is this year is a massive improvement. Again, this is a guy that last year, it was 200 and painful to watch. Brenton Doyle looks like a completely different hitter up there, mixed in with the fact that he's a base stealing threat. 20 stolen bases on the season now, mixed in with the fact that he just had a multi-home run game. He's hit 9 home runs this year. He's driven in 30. He's got 20 stolen bases. He's got 76 hits this year for a batting average of 260, an OBP of 323, and an OPS of 731. When we're talking Brenton Doyle, you will take that all day, mixed in with the Gold Glove defense. What we've seen over the last 2 days is when the Rockies can get that level of play over with Brenton Doyle, it shows that he is a game changer. Brenton Doyle is a top level center fielder, especially if he can continue to grow as an offensive threat. I know there's stretches where it's tough for him. You even go back to the last 30 games for Brenton Doyle, 248 batting average, 301 OBP, and a slugging of 376 here with 27 strikeouts in that time, only walking 8 times. But in that time, he also drove in 15. You know what I mean? I mean, he did get on. Anytime Brenton Doyle gets on base, he is a threat. And what's great about Brenton Doyle is if he can continue to be successful at the dish, or at least this successful at the dish, even amidst the struggles, you're happy and confident because he mixes into a solid player that can fill out your lineup nicely, that can complement other players that are supposed to be more dominant threats on offense. I'm not worried about Brenton Doyle on offense when I know that he can do this, and when I'm seeing the season he's having, when I'm watching Nolan Jones come off of an 0 for day and a big strikeout game, when I'm watching other members of the Rockies lineup struggle offensively. I think we have to have a serious conversation about Brenton Doyle being one of the most important players on this Rockies roster, and arguably with some of the highest upside still. Mind you that there's still plenty of ball left, and if he can continue to show the strides that he's showing on offense, there is an argument to be made, and I know there's a lot of great outfielders there, but that there is an argument to be made that Brenton Doyle deserves to be in the conversation for the All-Star game. He's not going to make it, obviously, and the numbers aren't necessarily there when you compare him to others and when you compare to some others on the Rockies as well. But what we have in Brenton Doyle is someone that is showing look at everybody else this year in terms of offensive development, right? In terms of what players you are hoping to take steps forward. And it's a mixed bag, right? I mean, it's a mixed bag of the results that you see, but not with Brenton Doyle. I mean, you sit here and you are ecstatic that Brenton Doyle is this. There is a chance. We haven't hit the halfway point yet, and I know it's a multi-home run game, but he could be 2020 this year. If he runs into 11 more pitches this season, and he could hit 20 home runs. Mixed in with that point, he could be, stealing. He could be at 30 plus stolen bases at that point. Brenton Doyle is a threat on defense, and Brenton Doyle is showing that he can be an offensive threat, and especially when he gets on base. His base stealing ability is game-changing. His speed is game-changing. Brenton Doyle has game-changing abilities about him, and he is someone that really can do big things for this Rockies team. And we can even see hopefully a little bit more out of him as the season goes on, because we're seeing the defense. We're seeing that come alive, and we saw it at the end of the finale against Chicago. And then for him to follow it up with this massive game here to start this game against Milwaukee. When you're talking about players to be excited about for the Colorado Rockies, when you're talking about people that are the ones to look out for, the ones to add to your fantasy baseball teams, the one to be focused on, you can't forget the name Brenton Doyle, because what he does and what he brings to this team is insane. And, an absolutely great way to start this series against a good team. That's a 50-win ball club that rolled into Coors Field there, and the Rockies were able to go blow for blow. And in big part, not only with was Brenton Doyle leading the way, Charlie Blackmon had a big night as well. The birthday boy was solid for the Rockies. And that's what the Rockies have. That's the type of way you have to win at Coors Field. You're going to have to win the games when you give up 7 runs and 14 hits to your opposition, but you got to be the ones that are able to make them pay more, and be the ones that know how to handle Coors Field more, and be the ones that land that final blow. And really, and let's dive more into this coming up in the second segment here as we got to take a break. Let's not ignore the fact that really the true thing to be really encouraged by, again, by the Rockies is the defense was stellar. The Rockies play great defense, and they had some timely defensive performances in this game against Milwaukee. Let's talk about that, and I want to talk about a little thing I'm noticing, and a thing that is going to make a tremendous difference, I think, for Ryan McMahon, Ezekiel Tovar, and Brendan Rodgers, and the Rockies infield. Let's talk about that coming up here in segment number 2. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes our friends at FanDuel. Man, it was a sports-a-palooza, and it's settling down a little bit now, but the good news is FanDuel isn't settling down. They're just heating up with all the great deals and offers they got going on. And they got you covered throughout all of baseball season. If you're interested in taking Rockies money line, or maybe you want to build a parlay and see what's going on with the Rockies, maybe you believe that the Rockies offense is going to stay hot against Milwaukee, something that maybe not we're so confident about going into this game, but maybe you saw something, how the Rockies were handling it. Maybe it's just the Rockies at Coors Field, and you want to bet on the offense, or maybe you want to bet on Milwaukee Brewers pitching strikeouts, which, if you take the overs against the Rockies players, usually not a bad idea, but you can see all the action and more at FanDuel.com. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn all about those daily bonuses and boosts. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Locked On Sports Today is your new home for 24/7 sports streaming content. You can find it on YouTube. And, if you're usually starting your day off with sports talk, why not mix it up and go check out that as well? And if you are on the road, on the go, and want to catch all your Rockies play-by-play action all summer long, well, SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app, available to you free and streaming. I am, of course, Paul Holden, host of the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are talking about the Rockies' a big win against Milwaukee. That's a win you sit there and you feel good about, because it had a lot of stuff that frustrates you about the Rockies, but it also had a lot of examples of the strengths when the Rockies have them. Again, the biggest problem and one of the biggest things we preach about as an issue with the Rockies is consistency. Winning back-to-back ball games is something the Rockies have struggled to do, but it's something they did here. Now it's building this and doing it over a longer stretch of time and a more consistent stretch of time. But one of the most impressive things that I took away from the game last night was that the Rockies defense continues to show that it's legit. We got the master class there from Brenton Doyle in the finale against Chicago. And then it's followed up with a game that highlights the biggest strength of the Colorado Rockies, their defense. Whether it be Nolan Jones with a great cannon play and throwing out a runner at second, whether it be Brenton Doyle's speed and ability and just their ability to cover Coors Field and play good defense. Ryan McMahon playing, getting a beautiful feed to Elias Diaz to get the right play at the end, turning double plays, a massive double play that Ryan McMahon had from third to first. And one thing I think why the Rockies are going to be even more successful on defense is because the team has decided to go to Michael Toglia full-time at first base. I think that his level of defense, you see the picks that he's making. Pardon me. I was just watching the game, and as we know, in the post-Helton era, watching defense at first base has been a big problem for the Rockies. And I know it's not the most elite of defensive positions, but when you have can be so confident that your first baseman is able to dig out the plays, it makes your tough plays extra. I mean, you just feel extra confident. It's why when Toglia was being compared to the next Todd Helton and being praised for his defense, your ears do kind of perk up because it makes a big difference. It is the difference. Milwaukee's first baseman had a fumble, and Milwaukee's a great defensive team. You know, they'll preach the same thing, and I'm sure their first baseman has made plays that back up their infield. But there are just plays that I don't think other options for the Rockies at first base make the plays that Toglia make as consistently. I will give Montero props. He looked much more comfortable at first base and did have some good solid plays at first base. But when I'm talking consistently over time and time again, when you need to help bail out Ryan McMahon because he's throwing off of 1 foot and doing a tumble and doing a crazy play to gun somebody out, Toglia is the guy I want playing first base to be able to bring the package together. I know the offensive issues are one thing, and that's the story for a lot of young Rockies players. But when he is on the field, that Rockies infield is defensively at its best. And again, I'm just focusing on the defense here. That's an argument for one of the best defensive infields in baseball. They turn a ton of double plays. They have Gold Glove candidates and Gold Glovers in there. This defense really can't be understated. The problem is they are given. It doesn't look like they can't be highlighted, and the amount of runs scored against the Rockies aren't always, are going to cloud that narrative, are going to make that look a little bit less, there's more there. Look how many runs they give up. Look at this, but look how many home runs they give up. Look how many extra base hits they give up. That the defense can only do so much there. And it hasn't been perfect. There's been issues, but you saw that this team made a huge jump from where they started the season on defense. And you win games like this because your defense. You win games like this because you're able to make the close plays. You're able to get the small things. You have to play that well to beat the good teams. It took everything in there in the tank and an extra inning for the Rockies to get it done against Milwaukee. But the reason why the Rockies were able to put themselves into a position of success in the bottom of the 10th is because their defense has been up to snuff. And that's the thing that when the train starts rolling, when we're looking for things, right? When we're looking for things to focus on, when the Rockies start putting things together, and it might just be for small stretches this year, and who knows when. But when things are going to start are going real well for the Rockies, and they're actually playing their competitive level of baseball, I really don't think the offense is going to be the biggest glaring thing. I think the Rockies defense is going to be the highlight of this team going forward, mixed in with the fact that they got potential. They have power potential with a home environment that they should be the most suited to take over. Their elite defense with an outfield that is very comfortable playing there and an infield that is top level, mixed with an offense that's comfortable at Coors. That should be the recipe for success. But unfortunately, I think with how far behind the Rockies bullpen is and with how far behind the Rockies rotation is, that's going to be hard to maintain because the Rockies are going to find themselves down often, pressing often, behind in games, and unable to stay in these boat races that are needed. So the Rockies are going to have to put things more together, and the pitching is going to be a key component to it. But this was an example of a game where the defense mattered for the Colorado Rockies and changed things. All right, let's talk about the another thing the Rockies have been doing more of lately and was on full display in this game here against Milwaukee, coming up in segment number 3 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes PrizePicks. What's PrizePicks? Well, PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. That's right. Your knowledge put to the test. So if you want to go with the Rockies, you're liking the offense, you're thinking they're going to stay, you can go and you can pick 2 to 6 players and you can see what they set for the hits on the Rockies batters. It's Ezekiel Tovar, it's 1.5. You go over on that. It's more. It's less. You pick that. It can be strikeouts. It can be a whole bunch of different things, and you can see all the action for yourself on the PrizePicks app, and you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. If you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit. That's today, by the way, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. You can check out all the action for yourself on the PrizePicks app, and today use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on the PrizePicks app for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. We are also brought to you by Tax Network USA. Here on Locked On Rockies, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. And you know what else is year-round? Collections season. Just because tax season over doesn't mean the IRS won't garnish, or the IRS won't stop coming after your unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon, and be sure to mention Locked On Rockies at checkout, and you'll receive a $250 discount off their services. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Free and streaming here on your favorite video streaming platform, YouTube. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But check us out there. You can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind over there. Hey, make sure you go check out Locked On Sports today as well. And don't forget, SiriusXM's got your Rockies action all season long. Hey, the Rockies are hitting home runs. Those are cool. I like when it's not the only way the Rockies score runs, as was evident there, but it's a really big deal. And to highlight it again, going back to our original point there, it's really great when you have guys like Brenton Doyle able to hit home runs. And it's good when Charlie Blackmon is still flashing a little bit of that power as well. Someone that was looking very comfortable on his birthday. Now, it's again, I don't like the fact that when the Rockies seem to go through these stretches with hitting more home runs, or seem to be hitting the ball over the wall a little bit more frequently, it comes at the expense of other offense, but not really the case here for the Rockies in this one. But I'd like to continue to see some other players start lining up and driving the ball out of the yard, especially if Nolan Jones can start going on a little stretch there. It'd be good to see Ryan McMahon, Brendan Rodgers get one out of the yard here again as well. But you can't sit here and be unhappy with most of the offensive lines here for the Rockies. Ezekiel Tovar unfortunately struggles in the game, but Brendan Rodgers picks up a couple of hits, has a couple of walks and RBI. Michael Toglia has a walk there. And again, the main focus, I think, again, that consistency, I think, is really going to help him. I think there's a lot of loud outs tonight for the Rockies as well, or last night, whenever you're listening to this. But it's a good sign still. I know they're outs, the averages and things don't match up, but still some solid outs, quote unquote, there from some of the Rockies as well. Nolan Jones, a couple of hits. Jake Cave, of course, with the walk-off hit there as well. Charlie Blackmon with a couple of hits. Ryan McMahon there as well. That's, it's there's something about Coors Field, right? There's something about that mojo, and there's something about the Rockies playing good teams, right? Another example here of the Rockies, of the Rockies playing better against higher level competition, a Brewers team that I think has surprised a lot of folks, made a lot of noise, made a lot of changes there in the offseason, but is a team that's been, usually up there. And of course, the Rockies are no strangers to the Brewers in the playoffs, considering their last meetup there. But all in all, it's this type of mix, right? This type of mix is a Coors Field. I think that's really just the best way to look at this one, right? This is a recipe for success at a Coors Field, for a Coors Field win. Is it pretty? No. Is it a clean game from the pitching staff? No. But the Rockies get 3 home runs. The Rockies get 13 hits. The Rockies play good defense, and all in all, it all mixes together again for a win. And that's the type of game the Rockies have to be able to generate more of, right? The problem is, it's just, is this something the Rockies can do over again? It's the consistency part that I always go back to, right? It's these games are weird. It's a weird example of baseball, and we'll see how the rest of this series is going to pan out between these two teams. I believe it is a 3-game set, and the Rockies are also welcoming an interesting team, the Royals, after this. Two teams that are very good with very interesting makeups to them. So it'll remain to be seen, right? Because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen the Rockies even string together the back-to-back wins all that much, and we haven't. It's so weird to watch that version of the Rockies when you watch them play against the White Sox the day before, and they strike out 21 times. And the Rockies still strike out. The Rockies definitely weren't absolved of that. But they only struck out 4 times. It's like it's so weird how much the Rockies go from these drastic highs and lows. There's so few in between. There's such few monotony and boring in the in between for these games between the Rockies, and the whole time you're sitting there in this close ball game waiting for them to mess it up, and then they blow the leads, and the bullpen is, the usual stuff is happening, but then they bounce back. What was the pulse? What is so different? And maybe it's just every day is different, and you have new opportunities, and baseball is just that frustrating, and it's that type of game. But it's again, how do you recreate everything about this game? The vibes. I mean, even in the situations, we saw multiple pitchers come off the mound in this game for the Rockies, fired up about what had happened. We saw good defense. We saw the Rockies picking each other up and backing each other up and pumping each other up. How they can bottle this and keep it going throughout the remainder of the season, I don't know. But these types of games, do kind of at least give you a shock paddle bolt to the chest. Again, the pulse and the lifeline and the energy of the Rockies is still low overall, I think, in terms of the passion of the fan, so to speak. But these types of games remind you that there are things to keep your eyes on. There are things, if they pan out, they will work out for the Rockies. There's just still so many question marks and still so much mediocrity to play and approach that gets in the way of the Colorado Rockies. We'll see if they can do it again. They take on the Brewers in another matchup here in game number 2. Same time, night series throughout the entire time of this 4-game set between the Brewers and the Rockies. We'll see if the Rockies can go for 3 straight, and we'll be breaking it all down right here on Locked On Rockies. Hey, don't miss out on the Locked On Rockies postcast after the Rockies games with Danilo Piro over on Locked On Denver Sports. Make sure you're going and supporting there. Make sure you're supporting our guy. Really appreciate him filling in for me last week as well. And folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.